Welcome back to the Taniwha Den, where entrepreneurs pitch new ideas in the hopes of hitting the big time. And now, a new challenger enters the den, Captain Cook.
Yes, I'm the new kid on the block, but I feel I've got some very good offers here. And I can't wait to face the Taniwha. Taniwha, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
I've got some great ideas for you that I think you will love. Starting with civilization. Oh, this is so big back in Britain, let me tell you, it's all the rage.
Yeah, look, Hemi?
It's James.
Hemi. Now, we appreciate big trip getting out here and everything, but we've already got civilization, so I think it's going to be a no from...
New Zealand. For better or worse, it's a country, and you're a citizen there, and you're supposed to know how it works. So, let's get into it.
The Citizen's Handbook.
Hi, I'm Robbie, and the government gave me a bunch of money to tell you how New Zealand works. So I got a big desk and lots of camera angles.
We'll keep going. And so I want to bring you in, Robbie. Now, Robbie, welcome. Kia ora, no mai, haere mai. Robbie, comedian, and for many known best as white man behind a desk, which sounds better than it is. No, which is better than it sounds.
How dare you?
Sorry, it is better than it sounds. Yeah, not really made for this. So, Robbie, I wanted to ask you, I guess we've been talking about the fact that maybe there's a bit of an awakening around some of these topics, constitutional transformation, for example. But I guess if we're honest, a lot of people, most people maybe, are not quite waking up. And I wanted to ask you about that in the context of the Citizen's Handbook, which is a web series and podcast that you've made. And I guess I'm asking, what made you want to make that podcast? What made you want to make, what was your driver, your motivation behind the Citizen's Handbook?
Yeah, kia ora koutou, and thank you to Thomas and Tam for inviting me and encouraging me to do this. If you're worried about depth, it's good to bring in a comedian just to say things that make sense and maybe don't have that much depth. No, thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here. But yeah, why did we want to do it? I think it started maybe a few years ago. We were invited to the Otaki summer camp that Nikki Hager and a few other people, cool people, run. And I just met a lot of really awesome people who were doing really awesome work. And I felt like the one thing that kind of united them was that they had a real clear sense of like our history and how New Zealand came to be the way it is. And it didn't overwhelm them or make them feel like hopeless. Like they could still just get up in the morning and do their work to make New Zealand better. And that was kind of unfathomable to me at the time, and it's still something I'm working through. And but I just kind of was really inspired by a lot of those people, and just kind of felt like, oh, I want to be like that, and I want to go on that journey. And so started going on that journey with my co-writer Phineas Teppert, and we also, there's only one thing I really know how to do, which is kind of tell jokes, and that's what I can do. So I thought, well, if I'm gonna go on this journey, then I will take the audience that I've kind of built up with White Man Behind a Desk and be like, let's go on this journey together. Let's try and like move through some like painful truths as a team. And so that was the idea behind it. And so then, yeah, so for people who don't know, White Man Behind a Desk was kind of more like just mocking news of the day. And then the Citizen's Handbook is like a little guidebook to history of New Zealand and then how the systems work now based on, as a result of that history. And just kind of, yeah, it's hopefully in that starting place of helping people wake up and confront some uncomfortable truths. And I think like yeah, definitely, I think I'll talk more about this later, but I just think that like most people are really busy in their day-to-day lives and don't spend a lot of time thinking about stuff. And like, I'm just lucky that I have like conned RNZ into giving me time to do it. But like, I just think that there's a general vibe. Like most people understand things just based on a general vibe rather than like knowing things specifically. And so lots of people who have a voice and have a platform, I think need to keep speaking up all the time, constantly, because it's only through like constant voices and constant displays and constant expressions and all these different ways and forms and worlds that general vibe starts to change. But yeah, so that's why we did that web series, and that's who I am as well.
Oh, tēnā koe, Robbie. Thank you so much for that introduction. And
Quick, Jade. Well, I might go to Robbie then, not for a joke, unless you have a joke lined up, but just for your for the pre-prepared question. So yeah, thanks for the Citizens Handbook. It was great lockdown viewing. We binged it here in this little flat. But yeah, there's quite a bit of talk about colonisation, obviously, and land, not specifically housing, but certainly the economy and the way land was perceived throughout history. And I guess I wanted to ask you, having been through that process of, you know, doing the research and making the web series and then putting it up and I guess judging the reaction and how it's kind of landed with various people, what would you say you've learned about the way people, different groups of people, think about land and, you know, through that housing in Aotearoa, New Zealand?
Yeah, I think it definitely resonated with me what Jade was saying about the getting the feedback from the, you know, from her district and being like, okay, cool, that's where we're at right now. I think, you know, like just this being a part of this conversation, which is, you know, such a privilege, and just being able to hear, you know, such specific and hopeful and clear optimism, and then the gap between that and like the world that I live in, which is YouTube comments with like you know, a largely Pākehā audience, and you know, sort of living in that world and trying to moderate comments and keep on top of things. It's not, you know, it's not great out there. I'll be honest, things aren't super great. And I think, yeah, I think it can be really frustrating as well. I think you know, thinking about, you know, that general vibe thing, like obviously, you know, politicians get elected based on like the public's, you know, you got elected. The politicians get elected based on like the public's general vibe of a politician. You know, it's like, you know, it's the things they do, but it's also how they talk and what they wear and like the colors they associate themselves with, and yeah, all the choices that you have to make that just affect the general feeling that people have. And I think it can be really hard when you know, like the great work that everybody's doing, and also like all of the education work that so many people are trying to do, and then you get the sense that so many other aspects of our society are sending a totally different message. And so, you know, I was just thinking about, you know, so a Pākehā viewer reached out to me about the bit where we talked about George Gray and his war crimes, and like said that there was a cat at a department at Vic Uni that is named after George Gray. And it was like, and they were just like, there's something about, I think, it seems unfathomable that it could be as bad as it was when there are seemingly rational people sending signs that everything was fine. You know, like I was just, you know, at the protest today, you know, people were giving speeches, and then behind them is Wakefield Street, you know, a big sign for Wakefield Street. And it's like, those are big cues that everyone sees. You know, we're doing our best, and RNZ, thank you so much for, you know, giving us money to like get the word out, and like we managed to get a few 100,000 views, but like millions of people see Wakefield Street every day. And so the vibe that you send out is that like Wakefield was a pretty fine guy, presumably, because I've met my counselors and stuff, and they're nice people and they're rational. So if it was really that bad, we surely would have changed the name, I assume. You know, it's like all of these codes all the time that are just sending to people it probably wasn't that bad. So I think just like, obviously this is just, you know, to people like me who have an opportunity to talk about things, obviously keep shouting as much as you can. But I think it's just like part of it is like there is so much out there that is undermining all of that good work, that is just making, you know, that is the stuff that people see all the time that sends a general vibe that the colonization of New Zealand wasn't that bad, and that the, you know, that don't worry about it and don't think about it. And I think just also really quickly, another thing that I think I learned from putting out a history web series and seeing the reaction to that, and I think it again goes back to something that Jade was saying about like having a clear utopian vision. I think like a lot of Pākehā viewers of our show had no concept of what that might be, or had never thought, oh, what might that look like? There's like a really, and including me, I think, going through that process as well of like, I think just like a really tiny thing from a comedy sketch, because that's what I do. There was like a comment someone made, just, you know, your normal kind of racist comment that was about the sketches that Captain Cook is pitching civilization to a panel of Māori investors, and then the Māori investors are like, oh, we've already got a civilization, so oh, no thank you. And one of the comments was just about, oh, you know, they're wearing contemporary like Pākehā clothes, so, you know, like, so what's that about? You know, and like obviously doesn't make any sense at all. But I think what it reveals as well is like this sense of no thought of like that, one, that there is a preferable alternate world where colonization didn't happen, and that Māori were able to just like continue living their lives and having their culture and developing and like exploring the world and developing their own trade relationships and, you know, all of the great things that have started to happen pre-colonization. And there's no sense of, oh, I wonder what, you know, the Māori relationship with the UN would have been, or how they would have handled the world wars, or like, you know, what tikanga would be around land now that might be a beacon to other countries. And there's no sense of that. Little comment about like they're wearing suits just kind of revealed to me this idea that like there's been no effort to imagine an alternative to just continuing to live in the society we live in now, that's been built by years of like oppressive and violent colonization. And I think just like, yeah, I mean, in terms of all of the work that everyone's doing, I think it's all connected in that the only way that I think a lot of people are going to be able to imagine that better alternative is if, you know, more people remove the obstacles to allow people to demonstrate that. And then it's our job as people in the media to then amplify those stories and put them out there so that people go, oh, that's what it looks like. I haven't had much time to imagine it, but that looks pretty good, and like more of that is probably good. So it's all connected. It's like, yeah, it's all the multi-pronged stuff of a couple of people in positions of power just having courage and doing stuff that maybe, you know, the public might not be immediately on board with right now. And then we have examples that we can point to. And obviously there are already awesome examples, and I'll do my best to amplify those as well. Anyway, that was much even ramblier than Jade claimed hers was, so I apologize about that. But yeah, those are some of the things that I've learned and thought about from this process. So thank you for letting me talk and giving me time.
Kia ora, Robbie.